Today I'll explain how to photograph shoes for e-commerce on a white background, using just one light and a very simple setup. I am Marco, photographer based in London. On this channel I share videos about product and creative photography. If you enjoy this content, please support me with a like, comment and subscription to the channel, so you don't miss any new videos. Let's get started. I've got a pair of Vivo barefoot shoes here on my table, and today we'll go through the steps to photograph shoes in a very simple and clean way. First, let's talk about the necessary equipment. To achieve high quality and consistent photos over the time, you'll need a professional camera. It doesn't matter if it's an APS-C camera or full frame. What matters is using a lens with a focal length between 50 and 70 mm. It is also crucial to use high-quality lights. I prefer flashlights for their high power output. I use the Godox D400 Pro, which I reviewed in a previous video. Flashlights are great because they help eliminate ambient light. For example, in this case, I can shoot without getting the video light in shot. Don't waste your money on low power and continuous light. Many times I see people buying the kind of bulb which is like 70 watt or 125, which is very little power for what you need compared to, a 400 watt flash. For shoe photography, the light will be mounted from above. You can see it's mounted on a C-stand, and I'm using the head extension, so the main light is on the side and basically just the head is overhead. And also to diffuse the light, I'm using a softbox which is 60 by 90 centimeters. Both diffusion layer are installed inside the softbox. So there is one layer which is basically on the outside and one middle layer which is on the inside. This helps diffuse the light a lot more. You can find all the equipment linked down below in the description, so please have a look. If you have to buy anything, there is everything there, and also is divided by price range, so according to your budget. To create photos on a white background, we'll need to position the product on an infinite curve. In this case, I'm using an infinite curve made using a PVC sheet, which is 60 by 120 centimeters. I use it because I can reuse it every time, so I don't waste any paper, but if you have the paper one, it's also okay. As you can see, it is mounted on the table and at the back with that T-stand, this is what I call it, just using some clamps. So now we can start to shoot the first image, which is gonna be the cover shot. You can see online many of the stores which sell shoes have just one shoe on one side, so let's try to create this kind of image. You can see from the other view the camera is mounted at the same level of the product, so in that case we can achieve a very side-on image without getting any back detail of the shoe. Few tips before proceeding. In this case I'm using a Sony a6400, which is an APS-C camera, and I'm using a 24 to 70 mm lens at the front, shooting at 50 mm. It is important to not fill the frame with your camera, so you get a higher depth of field, which means you get more focus. Shooting parameters with flashlight depends of course on your lights. In this case I'm shooting 125th, aperture 11 and ISO 200, but of course you can go to ISO 400 or maybe close a little bit more your aperture. It depends of course, but we can make sure the exposure is correctly set just using the color checker. If you don't know how to use it, basically this allows you to read the value to check the exposure and also the white balance to make sure every pixel is gonna be consistent over the time. So let me place the color checker on top of my shoe, so I make sure it is in the same position. In this case I can also remove my shoe and place it and then remove the color checker. Let's take the first picture. I'm shooting connected to my camera from my laptop, so in this case I can use Capture One and make sure I can see every details, and of course I can check the exposure, set the white balance, which is of course easier. Let me take a first picture. So I can see the color checker and I can read the value. First of all, let's set the white balance. Let's set the dropper tool to pick the white balance, or you can press W on the keyboard, and let's sample on the light gray card. Now the white balance is set. We just need to make sure the exposure is right. You can still use the color checker if you don't have a light meter. In this case, you can just read the value of the light gray card. You can see the value at the top here, which is now 88.9. We need to make sure we go up to 92 to make sure the picture is well exposed. So what I can do, instead of changing the light power, I can just increase the brightness. Okay, now it's 90, a little bit more the exposure. Now it's 92, should be okay. And then I can do some editing. For example, in this case, I can reduce a little bit the shadow because it's a black shoe. I don't want to see like a gray shoe. And also I can increase the contrast a little, and this should be fine. We don't need to change levels, curves, and maybe you can do some editing after if needed. So now we're ready to start shooting. Let me remove the color checker and let's take the same image without the color checker. So in this case, I can take the one which is the cover shot. Many of the stores have always this kind of picture, which is the shoe side on, which is almost looking perfect. It is important to place the light very above compared to the subject, so the shadow is gonna be cast on the table instead of basically being a long shadow on the side if you have the light on the side, which is not always looking nicer. And in this case we can shoot all the angle without moving the light. You can see the light is almost looking perfect. The only thing I'm wondering is the backlight reflecting on top of the leather. To reduce it, basically, I need to move it backwards. So what I can do, I can lower a little and move it. So now basically the back part is a bit more far and it's gonna reflect less light. Let me take one more picture so I'll show you the difference. And basically this is the before, this is the after, and you can see we have less light. To reduce it even more, I can just turn the softbox a little bit more to the front. Let me take one more picture. And you can see now we have enough contrast to still cut out the product, but also we don't have all this reflection on top of the shoe. These are just details, but if you know how to fix them, it's gonna make a huge difference, especially if you have to shoot like 100 shoes. So now we can move on the next image. Let's shoot the sole. Same setup, same camera position. I'm gonna take one picture and see how it looks. As you can see, it's looking good, so we're ready to move on the next image. For the third shot, I think we can bring in both shoes. In this case, I'm gonna place them 2 centimeters far from the other. Let's make sure everything is looking good. Laces, bows, like that. You can see compared to the camera, so if you have them at the front, now they are turned on the right side. I think it's 45 degrees, which is the good angle to shoot them. So now we need to move the camera higher, because of course we don't want to take a picture like that. We need to see more from the above, so let me just move the camera. Okay, let's see how it looks. Yeah, you can see it's getting better. Let me check the focus. You can see everything is on focus, even if I'm shooting very close to the subject at 50mm. The only thing I'm wondering, probably we need to create a little bit more space between the shoes. Okay, I can see the closer one to the camera is looking bigger, so we need to move it back. Yeah, you can see compared to before. Maybe let's turn them slightly front. Yeah, this is a nice side shot. The only thing I want to fix is the right lace is sticking out too much, so let me take one more picture. Yeah, this is the side shot. I think it's looking good. So now we can do the same by shooting the back. Same position, I'm gonna turn the shoes. You can also draw on the colorama or the paper or whatever you're using in case you need to keep the same position, but in this case I think I can do it just manually because it's one shoe. Let's check the styling. Shoe position, I'm gonna try to do the same as before. Let's shoot. Yeah, you can see it's basically the same position. I think I can move a little bit closer. So now I move them a little bit closer. Yeah, I think it's looking good. And then for the last picture, we can shoot one overhead, I mean not very overhead, but more from above, so we can see the front and all the details of the shoe. Of course, if you have more details to show, you can just grab the camera and shoot manually, or maybe if you shoot sequentially it's better, so you do all the side shot first, all the sole shot, then you do all the front, all the back, and that's it. Now let me grab the camera. Yeah, I like it. Let me just make sure laces are looking good. And that's the last picture. As you can see, I didn't crop the picture. I'm gonna do it now, but also you can do in Photoshop. So you can follow a guideline if you have to keep the shoe always in the same position. Maybe let's crop it square. You can see I don't have much space, so I'm gonna do it now, but also I can extend it in Photoshop. So these are the final picture. We have the side shot of one shoe, the sole shot, then we have both shoes side on, front, then we have both shoes back, and then we have both shoes overhead, kind of front picture. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like it, comment down below if you have any question, and of course don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'm gonna see you in the next video. Meanwhile, keep shooting great shoes images. Ciao!